City police need your help to find 17-year-old Rena White. White was last seen in the area of Shannon Road on April 25th. White is approximately 6 feet tall and 185 pounds, clean-shaven with straight brown hair and hazel eyes, as you can see. He was last seen wearing track pants, a hoodie, and black running shoes. He's known to have family connections in Southern Ontario, specifically in the London and Toronto areas. Anyone with information, please contact City Police. Well, it's not every day you can say that you helped build your own home. For one local woman, that's no longer the case, though. Casey Mayer is one of approximately 45 women who are taking part in Habitat for Humanity's first ever Women's Build right here in Sault Ste. Marie.
It was an initiative that we started. I've been the one that's kind of spearheading it along with the task force. As the resource coordinator, I'm always trying to get new fundraising ideas and get new initiatives to get the house going. When someone mentioned Women Build, we just ran with it.
Now, this is the first time this has been done in the Soo, am I correct?
It is, yes. It started in 1991 in the U.S. and then moved to Canada, but this is the very first one in Sault Ste. Marie.
So how does it feel to know that you're doing the first one ever?
Amazing, amazing. We were hoping for one day. We now have 3 days that we're building.
Same location?
Same location. We also have another group that couldn't make it on one of those 3 days, so they've booked their own Women's Build in June.
That's my favorite part of it. I can look at the flooring and say, like, hey, I did that piece of flooring, or some issues happen in the future. I know what I'm doing now, and it's wonderful. It's great to get my hands in there. I didn't even know how to do flooring, and I've painted a couple of pictures, but I've never painted a wall and the siding, and it's all a new experience. It's wonderful seeing all these women out here helping and what can be accomplished with a little determination and teamwork. The people from Habitat, I know, but the rest of these women are new to me, and each one is wonderful. I've got a chance to walk around and introduce myself, and they're just wonderful people. Yeah. Tears this morning when we first had to give little speeches there and whatnot, and it's wild, the turnout, and this is only some of the women. There's still 2 more days of building to go and other women joining. So.
Oh, wow.
The cause of a house fire that killed a mother and 4 of her young children on a Northern Ontario First Nation has yet to be determined. As of yesterday, officials work to also identify the victims' remains. First Nation Chief Donnie Morris said fire marshal's officials were still at the site of Thursday's tragedy, but the weather was making it difficult for them to investigate. They had blizzard-like conditions. The blaze broke out in the early morning about 600 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. Killed in the fire were a single mom and 4 of her children, aged 6, 7, 9, and 12. Morris said a daughter from the family, who was away on a medical matter when the fire broke out, has returned to the community and is taking it really hard. As of yesterday afternoon, officials hadn't removed the victims' remains from the home yet, but Morris expected those remains would be flown to Toronto last evening, or at the very least in the coming days, to have them identified. Regina's police chief says a man died in an officer-involved shooting over the weekend. Evan Bray says officers were called to an apartment early Saturday morning and discovered a man with a knife was holding a woman hostage. Bray says police tried to de-escalate the situation, but an officer fired their gun out of fear that somebody was going to be seriously hurt.
The circumstances and the actions of all involved are now the subject of an investigation, which will include oversight appointed by the Ministry of Justice, as I mentioned earlier. So we're limited in what we can say. However, I can confirm one of the officers present discharged the police firearm, and the male subject was pronounced deceased by EMS. I also want to tell you this. Situations like this are not frequent in nature. In fact, in the past 10 years, there have been 4 non-fatal police officer-involved shootings in Regina. This is the second fatal officer-involved shooting in 20 years.
The original plan for the pilots was to land to the west on runway 28, and at some point as they arrived in the area, the pilots requested to air traffic control that they change the direction of landing and land to the east on runway 10.
A federal investigator said yesterday that pilots of a charter jet that ran into a river at a Florida military base made a last-minute change to the runway where they would land. The pilots requested the change shortly before landing in Jacksonville.
I'd like to start off with the flight data recorder, which we recovered yesterday and was flown up to the NTSB laboratory in Washington, D.C. Before we can move the aircraft, we have to defuel it, take fuel off of it. And normally these aircraft are fueled and defueled underneath the wing. Because we can't get to the underside of the aircraft, we've had to cut holes in the top of the wing, and there's roughly 1,200 gallons of fuel remaining. And because of the weather and the storms and lightning, we've been very, very careful not to get too far into that.